Now with 70 pieces of bonus content and more added every week, you get a lot of catching up to do. Support the habit at patreon.com/doseofbuckley. Just in case you happen to be a time traveler from the past who stumbled upon this video, it's the future. The year is 2021. All of the 80s time travel movies got it wrong. We don't have flying cars, but machines haven't risen up to kill us yet either, so I suppose that's a good trade. Instead, it's a dystopian nightmare akin to the book 1984 that no one who ever references has actually ever read, where you don't have the freedom to do anything anymore. Except for some reason, you do have the freedom to go on every single social media platform and tell everyone that you don't have the freedom to do anything anymore. And if you're from the past, perhaps you remember a man by the name of Glenn Danzig, lead singer of the Misfits. The Misfits were a punk rock band that started in the late 70s, and are probably most famous for their song Last Caress, originally released in 1980. Let me read you the lyrics to the song. But you know what? Maybe to make it easier to digest, let me read them to you in my Patrick Warburton voice. I got something to say. I killed your baby today, and it doesn't matter much to me, as long as it's dead. Well, I got something to say. I raped your mother today, and it doesn't matter much to me, as long as she's spread. Sweet lovely death, I'm waiting for your breath. Come sweet death, one last caress. That's pretty much the whole song. They just repeat that all again. The song is under 2 minutes long. Punk is like the SoundCloud rap of the 70s to the 90s. A lot of really short songs. And don't get me wrong, I like punk music. In fact, I like the Misfits. But anyway, Danzig, doing an interview for Rolling Stone, the music magazine and website read by dads who want to pretend they're still hip, was asked about the song, which he replied, "It's just a crazy-ass song. We would do things just to piss people off," after claiming it was also about saying, "Fuck the world, fuck your system." He said, "It was something else. I don't think people will ever see anything like it again. There won't be any new bands coming out like that. Now, they will immediately get canceled." The interviewer says, "What do you mean?" And Danzig says, "People don't understand because everything's so cancel culture woke bullshit nowadays. But you could never have the punk explosion nowadays because of cancel culture and woke bullshit. You could never have it. It could never happen. We're lucky it happened when it did, because it will never happen again. You won't have any of those kinds of bands ever again. Everyone's so uptight and PC. It's just like, okay, whatever." What he's trying to say in that rambling, repetitive mess is, you can't make punk music no more. By the way, he said all this while he's promoting a new movie called Death Rider and the House of Vampires. Apparently, Danzig thinks he's Rob Zombie now. But anyway, the trailer begins with a man taking a half-naked, clearly abducted woman to be murdered by vampires, and then features a whole bunch of blood and violence. But oh no, you can't do anything controversial anymore. The world's too PC. Now I know I've flogged this topic to near death, but let's talk about what cancel culture really is, because there are sort of varying degrees to it, generally dependent on what you've done and who you are. I'm not going to run down the exhaustive list of examples again here of who's been fine after being so-called canceled and who's still struggling, but basically what it means for a celebrity is that you kinda lose access to a more mainstream audience. It means things like being booted from a popular TV show, or not being allowed to host award shows, or radio stations not playing your songs, maybe Netflix doesn't give you a special. All things that punk doesn't give a fuck about, and shouldn't give a fuck about. The Misfits were already canceled. They just didn't have a word for it. Rock radio stations weren't playing Last Caress, or Hollywood Babylon, or She, or Die Die My Darling, because it had no mainstream appeal, which is the appeal of punk to those who like it. Punk is supposed to be about not giving a fuck about what the rest of the world likes, about ignoring the disco and pop bullshit or what mainstream rock was doing. Sure, the Ramones and their silly shit like Blitzkrieg Bop or Rock and Roll High School or I Wanna Be Sedated, those got played. But you weren't hearing the Dead Kennedys singing about police brutality or privileged white kids or lynching the landlord or being too drunk to maintain an erection. Punk has always been about being controversial and edgy, even if some of it now feels like listening to a 14-year-old on voice chat playing Call of Duty, just edgy for the sake of edgy. But it's effectively uncancelable because it's pre-canceled. It will never be mainstream. Sure, pop punk was, but I'm not talking about Blink-182 or The Offspring here. We're talking about bands like NoFX, who have never even had a single song on the Billboard Hot 100, and one album of their 14 managed to go gold in the US. That means sell 500,000 units. Only one of their albums have ever done that. So when Fat Mike made a joke about the deaths at the Route 91 Harvest Festival, saying, at least they were country fans and no punk rock fans, nothing happened to him outside of a few angry comments. Do you think that the guy who once performed a song called Please Stop Fucking My Mom and made an album called Heavy Petting Zoo featuring a guy 69ing a sheep on the cover lost any fans over that? Not really. Does this mean he probably won't get to do a Vegas residency or be asked to perform at the Grammys? Yeah, maybe. But guess what? He wasn't going to be asked anyway. And also, since when the fuck has anyone got truly canceled over something they said in a song? If this was the case, there wouldn't be a single rapper with a career, but they're all still rapping about treating women like vapid fuck toys. You don't get canceled for how you treat women in fiction. You get canceled for how you treat them in real life. As long as Glenn Danzig never actually killed a baby or raped someone's mom, he's fine. Although, after watching him get knocked out by one punch in the early 2000s, I don't think any mothers or babies are in danger of being harmed if they fight back just a little. But in art, music, movies, whatever, you can do pretty much whatever you want. But you have to understand, yeah, it might close a few doors, especially if you're also a huge asshole and have a reputation for being difficult to work with. A Dose of Buckley has probably closed off any chance I had to get my own show on Disney Plus, where I coach a bunch of out-of-shape, ethnically diverse teenagers with learning disabilities from poor neighborhoods, one of which is non-binary, to become Golden Gloves champions. But you know what? I've made my peace with the fact that Alan Bergman is going to call John Stamos instead of me. But you know what seems very not punk to me? Complaining about how you might get canceled. Punk is about how the world already canceled you. You're an outcast, a misfit, if you will. Hell, it should bring a smile to your face to get canceled. You want to get canceled. You want that reaction from as many people as possible. You don't want to be part of the mainstream anyway. Oh, the world's turned so upside down that in 2021 you can't sing a song about forcing yourself on someone's mother because people on Twitter would tweet angry things at you and you won't get invited to be on The Masked Singer. Shut the fuck up, you pansy-ass little baby. That's not punk. Punk is saying, I don't give a fuck. I fucking dare you to try and cancel me. Don't like what we're doing? Don't buy it. Don't stream it. Don't come to our shows. We don't want you here anyway. You should know this already, Danzig, but it's the difference between being punk and being a punk.